Go through on my sewing machine, and I use a zigzag stitch at the widest length, and I just layer on my skirting. You could do it one at a time to be safe. The one thing that I would really urge you is that most of the tulle that we carry, or that Deb carries, does have a little bit of stretch to it horizontally. So you want to make sure that you're not pulling on it. You also want to make sure, because with your underskirt, it's likely to be cotton lycra, or maybe use something else, I'm not sure. But you just don't want to pull on it and make it any wider. So again, I'm just going to use my widest zigzag and just go through and gently add another layer. If you want to be wild, you could add 2 layers at a time, but really it's also just fine to just add 1 layer at a time. And you just want to make sure that you're really cutting accurately from your pattern. You're not making anything too big, like where the waist is on your pattern, because you want to make sure that it's going to fit onto your bodice. These layers of tulle are so thin that you're not creating, I hear people talk a lot about like how much extra thickness does that create, and it doesn't create a heck of a lot. One thing about tulle, working with Tulle-tastic tulle versus tulle maybe from Joann's or something, it's not like that. It's a very different texture. It's also, I've found, and I only worked with tulle a little bit prior to trying out Tulle-tastic, it's just not the same. Like, this is a lot more flowy, especially for those circle skirts. And when you do gather it, it does, you know, create that lovely puffiness I know some people really love. I like the layering of the circle skirts myself, and I actually do both in my work. So just notice I'm not pulling. Like if you start pulling on the waist here, it's going to stretch out your skirt, and you don't want to do that. So now I have 3 layers on, and I'm going to put that 4th one on. So 1, 2, 3, 4 attached, or I'm sorry, 3 layers of tulle. And I actually chose, I know I showed this earlier if you watched the video on the circle cutting. Also, I wanted to mention I did a video today. I've been a little video crazy. I did a video on burrito roll for bodices. So if that's something you're also new to in doing your designs, you may want to head over to Bridget & Co. Patterns and check out the video that I left today on the burrito roll technique for making bodices. Okay, so I chose to use the silver side of the grape gold splatter. And now I'm going to put my snowflake on top. And again, I cut each of these circles singly. They're a continuous circle cut. And there's a video I did earlier where you can see how to do that if you're not sure. And let me just make sure this is right side out for my customer. Okay. And I'm going to add it. Okay, so I'm going to sew this on. And again, like I said, just, you might want to, actually what I'm thinking, I've been doing this for so long I don't even pin it, but you may want to just like clip it or pin it so that you can see where the halfway point is. And as always, like I said, just remind yourself, do not pull on the tulle. Do not pull on the cotton lycra skirting. Use the widest zigzag stitch. So I'm also not sure if you've heard, but at Bridget & Co. Patterns, we did a search for testers to test out Juliana in size, let's see, 10, 12, and 14 for tweens. So that is currently underway. And should be releasing soon. And as far as Tooltastic, we are soon going to be looking for some promoters. I will be posting soon about adding some people to our team. If you're interested in that and you like to sew with tulle and share about your makes, so again, it's just going through zigzag stitch and we're all set. Ugh. And then I get my cover stitch out. That's what I use for knits. You might also use your sewing machine, and that's fine. So then my next step is now, since it's continuous, there's no seams on the side. So as far as connecting it, I just want to make sure I have it quartered so I have a pretty rough idea. So here's my two ends. I just throw a clip in just so I have like sort of an idea for quartering it. Okay, and then I'm going to take my bodice, which I have. This is some fabric from Oh So Pretty Custom Fabric. I like to pin the side seams so that I make sure that they stay together and that it's even. When I stitch that skirting on. I'm going to show you in a minute just how much 4 layers of circle skirt tulle over the cotton liquid layer, how thick that actually is. So that's it. You know, it's not super thick. I've heard people ask, is that going to make it really thick? It's not. What I like to do after I've put the bodice onto the skirting is I actually serge around, so that I just clean it up, and if there's any, so there's no, it's just a clean finish. Like, this is professional for my shop, and even for my own kids when I sew stuff. I just like to have a clean finish and wrap up with the serger around that. So I'm gonna put it, I like to put my skirting over top, and then I'm gonna meet it at the sides where I have one of my quarter clips. And this just gives me a rough idea by putting it in quarters, like where I'm at as I'm stitching around, because you don't want to have any extra ridges or wrinkles or anything, or like excess in the waist. You want it to just go right on. And then I just clip it to the top. Does anyone have any questions as I'm going through here? Okay. I'm going to pop it on my machine with all my layers. You might want to put more clips on. That's totally fine. There's no rule. I actually even use pins. Pins I have found don't bother the tool at all, but you know, use what you're happy with. These are actually hair clips. They're not even sewing clips or anything. It's just what I happen to have a lot of. And then using my 3/8 inch seam, I just stitch it right on. And like I said, when I'm finished, I'm going to serge around this waistline seam. And then I add my shop tags and the size tags. Do you have tags that you add? That's always my... I actually like sort of hate adding tags. I don't know why, for some reason I'm like neurotic about them. And that they're on like super straight. And so you just keep turning a little bit, making sure everything's together. And I realign. Okay, just turning again. It's like so quiet in my house. They just went out for a ride, so I have a little time to myself. Okay. Almost there. Anybody have questions about tulle or the care of it? It's much softer than tulle that you might purchase in the store, generally. We look for tools that when there's glitter on them, it either doesn't come off or sheds very little. Yeah, one of my regrets with sizes is I've made my girls a ton of stuff and now they're growing up and they're no longer in the tiny sizes and they're in like size 7 and 12, 14. So now I have no idea what all those many things that I've made are. So I wish I put size tags in everything. Oops. But here we have it, all finished. The 4 layers of tulle are added, and it's over the skirting, and it's looking fabulous. So I'm going to move to my... Whoa! I need to get a GoPro, I think. Sorry about that. I'm going to move on to the serger, and I'm going to serge the seam at the waist. As you can see, once again, like it's not... This isn't a lot of thickness, I think is what people are always asking about. This is actually pretty thin, in my opinion anyway, after using other tulle. Like, I think this is pretty thin for 4 layers of circle skirting. So once I serge it, then I just add my tags and we're all set. And I really, really love, like, I hope it shows just the variation. And again, this was the snowflakes. This is grape with gold splatter, but I use the other side of it, so it's the silver, and 2 layers of lilac. On top of Oh So Pretty, this is sky blue, solid. A couple places I get asked about solids too. Oh So Pretty has a great stock of beautiful colors to choose from, as well as the company that makes the Bum Bums, the Chicka Chicka Bum Bums pattern. Can anybody remember what company that is? I do not know why I can never place it, and now I'm going to have to put it in comments. Elizabeth, do you